13th, 2020, the date that changed PA's schools forever.
We're also going to be closing all public schools across the state for 2 weeks starting Monday.
The coronavirus pandemic, shutting down schools for in-person instruction. Students, parents, and educators all adjusting to virtual and hybrid learning. Now, as we look ahead to the end of the school year, we're seeing learning loss.
Oh my gosh, they're fighting to get back to where they were.
And declining test scores across the Commonwealth.
We were trending the right way, and then, honestly, the rug got pulled out from under us.
So where do we go from here? We have an expert panel standing by, and we hope to answer that question tonight. And now, a CBS 21 News Town Hall, Crisis in the Classroom. Sponsored by Pennsylvania STEAM Academy, Communities in Schools Pennsylvania, and YTI Career Institute.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Crisis in the Classroom Town Hall. I'm Joel D. Smith. We have a great panel of local experts and leaders. Let's get to know them now. We have Carolyn Dumarisk, that's the board chair of the Pennsylvania STEAM Academy. We have Jessica Knapp, the executive director of Communities in Schools in Pennsylvania. Also, Dr. David Christopher is here, the superintendent of Cumberland Valley School District. We have Marie Merkel, the president of Pennsylvania PTA. And there's Aaron Chapin here as well, vice president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. So glad to have all of you folks here. We're looking forward to your perspectives. But before we get to our first panel interview, let's get everybody up to speed. When it comes to the many challenges education is facing right now, how did we get here? Here's CBS 21's Jessica Babb to explain.
They're fighting to get back to where they were.
It's a pandemic problem 2 years in the making.
We're going to keep our schools and businesses closed as long as we need to keep them closed to keep Pennsylvania safe.
With schools shutting down in March of 2020.
We were seeing increases in 5 to 11-year-olds getting sick.
And the COVID chaos creating virtual classrooms.
We're all feeling burnt out by unending demands, unreasonable expectations to do more and more and more with less and less support.
It was a back and forth for months.
It's still challenging because of the unknown. They don't know what's going to happen next week.
Students and teachers going from virtual to in-person and hybrid models of learning.
We have 4 kids, our internet, crashed. It was just tough. It was hard.
It was a setback because learning in school is completely different than trying to learn at home.
Now, even though kids are back in the classroom, students are still struggling.
How far behind are students in this district?
Our students are very much behind.
Districts are dealing with learning gaps.
And now, we saw the increases of students being below grade level, upwards of anywhere from 65 to 75% of.
Schools saying students are lagging behind in subjects like math and reading, many of which are also struggling with mental health issues.
Are the gaps what you expect, or are they bigger than what you've expected?
I would say that they're larger than what I expected.
Statewide, assessment scores are down, showing only 37% of students are proficient in math and 55% in English.
It was a very, very unconventional year.
With districts ramping up interventions, tutoring, after-school and summer programs, and credit recovery.
We will get them where they need to be.
Some say they're already seeing progress.
This was a 2-year hiccup, and it's going to take longer than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even a marking period semester to get out of that hole.
But it's just the beginning. Some experts saying in some cases, the road to recovery and getting kids caught up could take up to 2 years.
I believe that they can. I believe that all kids can. I believe that they will.
For CBS 21, I'm Jessica Babb.
All right, there you have it. A lot to take in here, a lot of topics. We're going to start with Carolyn Dumarisk from the PA STEAM Academy. What impact have you seen from the virtual hybrid learning changes so many of us had to make?
I think there are 3, and the summary that you gave was very good. It touches on those. I think the 3 that we've seen are the social and emotional deficits of children when they come in that have not been in a group learning environment, such as waiting your turn, raising your hand. We've seen a lot of fine motor skills, children not having held crayons or pencils, so that in addition to the academic deficiencies that we saw, our staff is struggling with those other issues also, which inhibit, obviously, the academic progress that you can make.
Wow, something as simple as, yeah, are you holding this correctly? I guess we don't think about those things, and when you can't see it, tough to react to that. Jessica Knapp, Communities and Schools, your first impression.
I would echo what Carolyn said. I mean, I think the COVID-19 pandemic has really compounded the inequalities that existed, and we're seeing that sort of across the region and across the Commonwealth in, the way that this is impacting different students and different families. And really, there is learning loss, and that must be addressed. But there's also, this whole child that needs support and needs holistic wraparound services.
David Christopher, you're, a superintendent. You've seen a lot of this stuff. Catching up from learning loss. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but putting that into play, what's been the challenge with that?
I mean, we've been fortunate that I don't think we've seen a lot of learning loss at Cumberland Valley, but we also had face-to-face instruction for students in grades K to 5 last year, all year long. We were able to manage that in our buildings. So I don't think we've seen quite the same issues that have happened in other school districts. Has been mentioned already, that there were inequities in how districts were able to manage and handle things last year. Our bigger challenges, I think, have really been related to just the trauma of the pandemic and what that's had on our communities, and really just some of the social emotional challenges we are seeing with students. And I think that's affected our communities in general. I don't know that it's just been our kids. And I think that's continuing to happen. So I do see more of the whole child kind of well-being issue being a bigger challenge for us at Cumberland Valley than any specific learning loss.
Gotcha. So from the school perspective, we're getting that. We want to hear from the parents' perspective. From the Pennsylvania PTA, we have Marie. What are some of the biggest issues you're hearing from parents?
We're hearing from parents that they're not able to help the kids in schools and do things for them and help bring programs to the schools to help with them. And some of the parents are just frustrated because they're not teachers. And now coming back, they're struggling and they're not sure what to do.
Did that improve at all? Did you hear from parents that said, all right, we got better at this? Initially, it was a shock to all of us, but we got better because we had to.
Some of them have gotten better.
All right, but overall, still a big challenge. I hear you. Let's go to the PA State Education Association now, and Aaron Chapin. When you're hearing all of this, what comes to mind for you from the teacher's perspective?
Well, everything I'm hearing so far is exactly what we're hearing from across the Commonwealth. It's an unprecedented time for our for us as a society, but especially for our students. And yes, there have been some learning losses, but we've also, been very focused, laser focused on the mental health of our students, because we know that's exactly what is needed for academic success. And so we've been trying to not only help them academically, but to help them socially and emotionally.
I'm going to stick with you on this for a second. We know the state scores are in, the test scores are down, seems predictable. But when we're talking about trying to get those back up, what are some of the options that are out there?
Well, of course, standardized tests we're going to be lower. Again, this was an unprecedented time in our history, and our students suffered greatly as many of them were at home. And the great part is that there are resources that are available to our school districts from the federal government, and these funds can help school districts in a variety of ways provide those services after school and during the summer to help our students recover from this crisis.
Are people using these services? I want to get back to Carolyn on this. What are you hearing from folks about knowing that these things exist and then actually taking people up on them?
Well, I think that knowing they exist is a hurdle. And it depends, again, on the nature of the community that you're serving, what kind of communications are going on. I have found that parents are very willing. We know to help to mitigate the learning loss. We do before and after school and planning on summer programs to the recidivism rate gets smaller. But it is, the struggle is getting that information out to parents, and then also parents being able to get to those services, because once schools are closed and transportation is closed, it's difficult to get folks into summer programs. And you have to also budget for that while you're doing that.
Jessica, one more comment from you before we kind of get to our next topic here. Any programs, initiatives that you're hoping to actually get better at or get more of, or things that need to change to move forward here?
Sure. So, I mean, I can say from the perspective of communities and schools of Pennsylvania, we've more than doubled in size since the pandemic hit. And I think it's, because of what Carolyn said, many school districts are realizing that, there is a much bigger problem here and that, there is additional support that is needed, and helping to navigate those services and those systems in a way that is focused on equity and is culturally responsive, I think is really, really important. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Gotcha. All right, let's talk about this right now. The PA School Boards Association, in partnership with the PA Association of School Board Administrators, they recently released their 2022 State of Education report. So we have the results here, and out of 275 school districts, there was a 55% response rate, so not bad. Let's take a look at some of those stats right now. We're talking about truancy rates first. The report says in part, whether due to health and safety concerns or maybe other causes like guidance or measuring remote learning attendance, the statewide truancy rate doubled between the 2019-20 and 2020-2021 school year. Most significant increases were seen in middle and high school levels. So you see the numbers right there. It was 9.2% in the year ending in 2020. A year later, it's 18.5%. So I want to start with David Christopher here. What are some of the numbers that you've seen as well? And is this kind of what you're noticing, at least in your school district?
We definitely have had more challenges with attendance, certainly in the last 2 years. And some of that, is by design. Like, you're telling kids if you have the sniffles or you have allergies, like, you can't come to school until you had a test. And those weren't easy to get necessarily. The district did procure about 2,500 tests that we were using with students in those situations. But, we still had lots of absences. And so I think as we move into the fall, especially next year, trying to get back to a more normal attendance expectation and trying to make sure that we do have things in place to ensure that kids come to school and that they understand they need to be in school will be really, really positive and helpful. I mean, it's been difficult to police that because, you didn't want to tell parents, say, don't come, come bring your kid to school or you're going to be in trouble because you didn't necessarily want them there if they were sick.
Well, and then Aaron, from the perspective of the teachers, if you're not seeing kids enough, how do you expect to teach them enough to do well in those tests that we just talked about, the challenges there?
You're absolutely right. And I think that just drives home the point of just how vital it is for our schools right now to have more nurses, guidance counselors, and school psychologists, because some of these issues can help be resolved by coming into contact with these school staff members. And the funding is there. Districts just need to take greater advantage, and we just need to provide our students with the greatest support, because it's true. The healthier they are, the more that they will attend school and the more successful they'll be.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let's talk about something else in the report. It says the biggest staffing shortage that nearly every district is seeing is for the substitute teachers. So the staffing areas in which the districts are really experiencing that, the subs, 99.6% have a problem there. Instructional aides are above 80%. Transportation, it's almost 80%. Full-time teachers still rough at 48%. School nurses, around 46, and then the psychologists at 21.2. Carolyn, when this comes up, these are tough numbers to digest and also be positive about moving forward.
Yeah, they are very tough numbers to look at. I think the only way you can do that is build in redundancy. We're very fortunate in our years here as we have 2 adults in each classroom, a teacher and a success coach, and capping the class sizes at 20. It's very difficult because I've been in school districts where a teacher's absent and those children then get migrated out to other classrooms, which even increases class sizes there, which doubles the pressure on that classroom teacher. So it is hard, and and without being face to face with the teacher, it's very difficult for children to learn.
Certainly. All right, so biggest instructional challenges, let's talk about that a little bit as well. Trying to address some of the social emotional issues out there. We have the stats, it's 85.9% having trouble there. The adjustment back into in-person instruction, you get used to one, you switch to the other. 24% said that was an issue. Student attendance, a quarter of the folks also agreeing with that. So Jessica, when it comes to some of these stats, what stands out?
So certainly the social emotional thing. I mean, we have had, almost 2 years where students have been back and forth, and because of learning at home and not being in a school building, they sort of lost this ability to interact with each other and to navigate social situations. And so sort of across the board, we're seeing increases in bullying and in mental health and in suicide crisis calls and even in fights and school violence, just because of this, gap now that exists in the social emotional learning of our students.
We want to get to a Facebook question right now. This is Deborah Daimler Jennings who wrote into us. With so many youth with special needs, ADHD, things like that, being on different levels of the autism spectrum, anxiety, mental health issues, all that, then add in external issues of homelessness, food insecurity, illness, grief. She's wondering about this. It can be really tough on families and yourself. She says, how are the school staff managing all of this, and who is supporting our educators? And how are we able to support our educators as well? A lot to consider right there, but these are the factors that people are wondering about. Let's go to Marie for an answer on this.
Well, hopefully there's enough staff in the schools to help them. I'm actually a retired teacher too.
Sure.
So hopefully the staff is there to help them and things like that. And the children have the help. Some of the parents need help. And if the children, you know, have some kind of problems and things like that, some of them are connected with agencies that can help them. And it's an adjustment. It really is. So, I mean, we're there trying to help as much as we can, but everybody in PTA is not an expert to help. We just can help lead people to where they can get the help.
Exactly.
Try to guide them in the best way.
Makes sense. All right, guys, we're off to a good start here. Thank you. We're not done yet, though. Before we go to break, we want to hear a little more from you out there. What are you most concerned about at your local school? We have a crisis in the classroom tip line. Here it is, 717-857-3614. Or you can email us, cbs21tips@sbgtv.com. A lot of great discussion so far. Coming up after this quick break, we're taking a look at the future. Some of the good things going on in education right now. You don't want to miss it. See you in a sec.
We make learning fun at the Pennsylvania STEAM Academy, where we focus on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Our curriculum was designed by career educators and community leaders to maximize effectiveness in teaching reading, mathematics, and science to our young learners. We provide an academically challenging learning environment, small class sizes, and partnerships with local community organizations. Pennsylvania STEAM Academy is a free, all-inclusive school that our kids love and feel safe in. Visit our website to learn more. We believe greatness exists in every child. At Communities and Schools of Pennsylvania, we focus on building relationships and breaking down barriers so that every student can succeed. This past year, we served almost 12,000 students, and our support doesn't end in the classroom. We help students and parents connect to resources and distribute food, clothing, and hygiene supplies so students can focus on learning. Your support not only helps students succeed in school today, but it helps build stronger communities tomorrow.
For YTI Career Institute grads, it's all about the end game.
Career in healthcare is a great career.
Definitely got the foot in the door, and I think that's what a lot of YTI is there for, is open those doors and opportunities.
Now I couldn't imagine not having my own business and working for someone else at this point.
If you put in, 100%, you're going to get 100% out of it.
YTI Career Institute grad, getting it done.
I have an education, and I really love what I do.
Go to yti.edu right now.
Spooky Nick Summer Camp registration is open. Visit SpookyNickSports.com today for more information.
You're watching a CBS 21 News Town Hall Crisis in the Classroom, sponsored by Pennsylvania STEAM Academy, Communities in Schools Pennsylvania, and YTI Career Institute.
And welcome back, everybody. Right now, we're focusing on the future. Where do we go from here? I know it's a wide open question there, so you guys can kind of go in any direction you wish, but we're going to try to find some positives. We'll start with you, Carolyn. What do you think?
Well, I'd like to piggyback on something that Aaron said, which I think is very important, which is the need for more social workers and support staff that help with truancy, that network with parents on the importance of the economic issues that have hit our parents, at least in the population we serve, has caused a lot of homelessness. So we are, with McKinney Vento, working again to try to bridge that gap with parents so that they have a place to live. It's hard to have children learn when they're hungry and have no place to sleep.
You got to have stability. I hear you. Yep. Jessica, what are you thinking for the future?
Similarly, I think really it's the non-academic barriers that we need to focus on that are preventing kids from being successful, making sure they have their basic needs, that they have a roof over their heads, that their health and mental health needs are taken care of, because none of those things, are going to go away on their own. And so really, I think that's what Communities and Schools is going to be focusing on in the future.
David, Christopher, are we past the toughest point here? Or do you guys still think you got a big hurdle ahead, or are we on the right side of this thing?
You can't see it, but there's a magic 8-ball over here somewhere on my cabinet that I do occasionally get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we thought we were through this a couple times. I think that's been the difficulty. I think especially last fall. I mean, we had last summer and we really thought we were coming back to a normal school year, and we did not, and we really had, I mean, this year's been more difficult than last year. I mean, to be honest with you, in some ways. So, I mean, I think for us, the biggest challenge moving forward is really staffing. I think an existential crisis for public education right now are the lack of individuals who are going into the career. And so we as a district are taking the initiative to really try and ensure first that our folks who work for us feel supported and that they understand that and they feel like this is a great job for them.
Yeah.
It's really hard to recruit people if they don't feel that way. And so that's our first step right now.
Yeah, before you can have great teachers, you need teachers. So I hear you. Big number, big problem. Marie Merkel, from the PTA's perspective, give me some good news.
I think as parents, we need to definitely follow the PTA mission by encouraging and making every child's potential a reality, and never giving up on the teachers and never giving up on every child, and doing everything we can to encourage families and communities to make their potential a reality.
Aaron Chapin, what are you hearing? What do you think's next?
I think Jessica's absolutely right. This pandemic has shined a light on just how important student mental health is. I think, we've always focused on academics being the top priority, but it's really shown that we've got to take care of the whole child. But I think it's also really shined a light on just how important our educators and support professionals are to our students and to our communities. I think, our families quickly learned into the early days of this crisis just how valuable our schools are to our students.
Let's talk about what else is happening out there right now. Many school districts are doing summer programs. That's good stuff. And then the Cumberland County, East Pennsboro area school district in particular, they got some good things happening, holding their Summer Core Academy again for students K through 8. That program runs July 5th through the 28th. Over in Dauphin County, Steelton High-Spire School District holding 2 summer programs, the Roller Enrichment Academy in partnership with the Salvation Army. That second one's for the junior and senior high students with district staff. So while the past 2 years have been something to consider here, it is interesting that we're trying to help out with that learning loss a little bit right here. Let's talk to Jessica Knapp about this. These pieces that we're putting in place, do we need more of them? And once again, are these effective, or we just don't know yet?
Certainly. I mean, I think, right, we always need more. We need more partnerships. We need more services. We need more systems navigation. I think, we always need more. And I think, learning how to build these partnerships and these efforts to help with these things will, reduce the burden on teachers so that they can teach effectively. And so I think really it's a joint effort.
I want to go to Aaron for a second. Can you give me a feeling for the morale? I know it was really tough on teachers to make this transition, but either we know how to do the online stuff now, or at least we're not intimidated by it. Do we feel like we're going in the right direction? I know numbers are a problem, but can you give me a feel for the morale of the staff right now?
Well, I'll tell you, our educators, our support professionals, they have been superheroes from the beginning of this pandemic, and they have done a miraculous job. And yes, we've had to tackle a lot of new technology, and that's going to be a great asset to our schools and our districts in the years to come. But right now, the level of strain that our teachers and support professionals are feeling right now is unprecedented. Between the lack of subs and staff being out due to illness and COVID, it's made things very difficult, as we've heard earlier. And, they're finding it hard to be there during their prep periods, to go to lunch, and in some instances, just use the bathrooms. And so hopefully as we get to the end of this year and we begin next year, that this strain will start to kind of dissipate, and the exhaustion that they're feeling will start to be alleviated.
David, I want to talk to you about this one, getting kind of a student perspective on. They've been pulled in different directions, whether it was vaccines or masks, or losing out on some things. If they were maybe some kids from a couple of years ago that lost out on some sports, or maybe it was a graduation ceremony. The students right now, they've gone through a lot, but are they on the right side of this now?
Well, yeah, I think they are. I mean, I think you can go into our buildings and it feels better. I mean, like in general, I think you can tell The kids feel better, and a lot of it's just the predictability of the current time right now. We're not closing down schools. We're not quarantining students, those kinds of things. And so I do feel like that's helped them a tremendous amount. And I am excited for the spring. I think the next couple of weeks, if we can keep schools moving in the right direction here the next couple of weeks into graduation, I think it'll be really good for us as we come into the fall again too.
Hey, Carolyn, I want to get to you on this one. What did we learn from this that can be a positive moving forward? I mean, we have some newer ways to learn now. We have some options that maybe are right for the right kind of students. And maybe also it's just, hey, we need to learn to adjust and move on in all kinds of parts of our lives. And this is another example of that.
Yeah, I think our children have been amazingly resilient through this with, again, adapting to different learning styles. We have learned that, again, that some children learn better with technology, others don't, and they thrive on face-to-face. And I think we need to be nimble enough to adjust to the needs of the children and those learning styles, and have more options for children. Again, we just deal with the little ones here at this point in time, but we've learned from them. And I think the biggest thing is just being supportive of the staff that you have and letting them know every day that you appreciate them, and know as they're trying to adjust. They have families at home too that need them. So
right.
It's been a real learning curve.
Marie, when you're talking about the PTA, I know parents have been very involved in a lot of some of these controversial decisions. Maybe that's a positive, that parents are making sure they know what's happening in their schools and they want to have a voice.
They do, and they're more accepting. I think a lot of them have really realized how much the teachers do and things like that, and they're more appreciative than they even were before.
Jessica, maybe some positive through all of this. Sometimes it's hard to navigate through all the negatives, but we did learn something.
Sure, we sure did. I think we learned, how to reimagine what education looks like and how to make it work for every student. Because, prior to COVID, it wasn't working for everyone. There were these inequalities. And so we've really had to, be nimble, like Carolyn said, and really think outside of the box. And I think that's just going to create a better learning environment for students in the future.
At this point, we wanted to just touch on a couple more things. We've been through a lot these past 2 years. There's been challenges. Carolyn, I'm coming to you one more time. Sum it up for me. What have these last couple of years been like?
Topsy-turvy. I think it's just been one crises after the other. And I think for our public education, we have been extremely nimble in adjusting to that. And it's a credit to the people who are working in these schools, from the administration down to the staff, through even the support staff. I think it goes like this because we are resilient, because we're educators.
Woo-hoo! I'm going to race today. As cool as the air.
Yeah, our teachers have been very creative through all of this. I got a couple little ones, and we'd hear in the other rooms some teachers getting real loud on these Zoom meetings, and you could see how creative and excited that they were to try to make this work. And so we really appreciate all of them, just like we appreciate all of you as well. A lot to get into, and we went in a lot of great directions with this. So thank you very much to all of you. A thumbs up to the future. We want this to be a positive moving forward, and thanks again for being all a part of this. I want to thank our panel, of course, for joining us this evening, our sponsors as well, Pennsylvania STEAM Academy, Community in Schools Pennsylvania, and YTI Career Institute. I also want to thank all of you for watching. Some important issues here, and we hope that we answer some of your questions as we head into the end of this school year. I'm CBS 21's Joel D. Smith. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.
This was a CBS 21 News Town Hall Crisis in the Classroom, sponsored by Pennsylvania STEAM Academy, Communities in Schools Pennsylvania, and YTI Career Institute.